We welcome you today. We're very proud to be celebrating Arlington's Veterans Day ceremony for the 11th consecutive year. Most of you know that Veterans Day is normally observed on November 11th, yesterday, in remembrance of the armistice ending World War I. But because the holiday fell on Sunday, we celebrate the official observance today on November 12th. Please welcome Arlington Mayor Jeff Williams.
Isn't it awesome to have incredible veterans who are making a difference in our community? And just as important, Arlington recognizes the value of our veterans, and we want to continue to honor them. Interestingly enough, look at Colonel Quick, who is also Dr. Quick, and one of our most valued professors at the University of Texas at Arlington. Well, I look around the crowd. That is the story here among our crowd today. Veterans serving to make a difference even after their service to our country. Well, we want to make sure that continues to happen because we know the sacrifices that the veterans make and their families. Consequently, we just got through with the largest veteran job fair in North Texas, the Red, White, and U that we had at Globe Life Park, helping veterans to find jobs as they get acclimated back into the communities after their service. We want to continue to work on that, and I want to also thank our volunteer base. Cleet McAllister, thank you to you and our many volunteers that continue to find ways to help our veterans and honor our veterans. Very appreciative. So with that, I have an official proclamation this day on Veterans Day. Whereas Veterans Day has its origins in the November 11th, 1918 armistice, which brought World War I to a conclusion, and whereas the Allied victory of World War I affirmed the strength of great nations acting together for high purposes, and whereas the people of the United States caused through their elected representatives the designated of November 11th as a federal legal holiday, which in 1954 became officially known thereafter as Veterans Day. Whereas Veterans Day continues to be celebrated and commemorated with solemn observances in honor of all Americans who have served their country in times of war and conflict. And whereas Veterans Day has become a significant part of our American heritage as we recognize the millions of our citizens whose military service has had a profound effect in history. And whereas the courage, the honor, sacrifice, and dedication which veterans of the United States Armed Forces have displayed in the cause of justice, freedom, and democracy are most worthy of recognition. Now, therefore, I, Jeff Williams, Mayor of the City of Arlington, Texas, and on behalf of the Arlington City Council, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2018 as Veterans Day, and ask that this day be observed with the appropriate ceremonies in honor of those who have served to preserve our principles of justice, freedom, and democracy. Let us think and remember and honor the veterans who have made a difference to our country and here in our community of Arlington, Texas. Thank you.
Our keynote speaker is Captain John Guandolo, United States Marine Corps, and graduate of the United States Naval Academy at Annapolis. His brief bio is in your program. Please help me welcome Captain Guandolo to the stage.
Well, good morning. How's everybody doing? Thanks for having a Marine come up and speak to you. Assuming, hoorah. I want to say I was told I have about 4.5 hours to speak, so, all right. I'd like to just say, Mr. Mayor, thank you, City Council members, and everybody that hosted and had anything to do with this. I'm really grateful that I was asked to come speak today. and grateful for the citizens, not only of Arlington, but of Texas. I am a recent transplant to the great state of Texas. I grew up in Maryland and lived in Virginia for the last 20 years, and about 20 months ago, made my home in the Dallas area. And I gotta say, I've never seen such love and support for veterans anywhere in the country that I've been. So thank you all, and that's why even more so I'm honored to be here speaking to you. For the citizens who are here showing up and supporting my brothers and sisters and myself as a combat veteran, just anybody that served. It's just a tremendous honor to be here. I'd like to just make one other comment before I kind of start my thoughts to share with you. I had several minutes to speak to John Goodnight over there, who was recognized as a 98-year-old veteran from World War II, which I think is astounding. But what I found to be even more astounding was he was married for 75 years, just recently lost his bride, and that to me is a tremendous inspiration. So thank you for that example too, John, and God bless you. So when thinking about what to share with you, I have a few thoughts that I want to leave, because I know we have some young people here. And I want to share some of the lessons I learned about what it meant to me to be on active duty, and what it means to be a Marine and be a veteran in general, and my path to get there. I would say against a lot of odds, I got into the Naval Academy, and pretty quickly realized I wanted to be a Marine officer, because I certainly identified with Marines more than anybody else I came across. And so I took a commission in 1989. I served in an infantry battalion and 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I deployed to Desert Storm and served in combat. Served on a MEU off the coast of Bosnia for quite a long time, and did some service there. And in 1996, did something I never thought I would do. I thought I was going to die in my dress blues, but I joined the FBI and spent 12 and a half years in the FBI, was recruited out of the FBI into the Department of Defense, and then served there, and now serve in the private sector. But what I feel that the military gave me and allowed me to share with others are a number of things. And one of the greatest things is a sense of loyalty. I will tell you that when I tell my friends this, I mean it. You give me 4 Lance Corporal Marines and I will take the world. And I mean that. Because men and women in the military, there is not only a bond between each other, but there's an absolute code that if you say you're going to do something, you do it. And in my experience, I had a lot of experience obviously working with the Navy, because the Navy and the Marine Corps work together a lot. And because I ended up going to 2nd Force Recon, which is a special operations unit in the Marine Corps, from which they created the Marine Special Operations Command now. I got to meet some of the greatest men I've ever met in my life. And I got to serve with other people in other services. We worked a lot with the Army. I went to a number of Army schools and got a chance to work a lot with the Army, both on training and some operations. And I got to watch what I think is how the military works best together. And as I got an opportunity to serve as a SINCS platoon commander, essentially an in extremis force that works directly for a 3- or 4-star commander, and I got to serve as the unit commander for that for about 13 months. I worked kind of in what we call the purple area, where you work at the command level with a number of the other services, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. And as a captain, that was a pretty incredible experience. And through my career, working with the men and women in the military, a couple things struck me. is that it really is important for us in the military, and I know you all who are veterans know this. We don't do what we do for applause, and we don't do what we do so we'll come home and you'll tell us how great we are. But it certainly is nice to come home after all the sacrifices. And I can tell you, some of my colleagues who have sacrificed a lot more than I did in these last 16 years, 17 years, doing deployment after deployment after deployment, and losing a lot of friends, and enduring things that, from my perspective, it's incredible they're able to function. And yet, to come home and just hear a simple thank you and have people come up and say that, it's impressive. And I've never seen it done better or more than here in Texas. And that has been one of the greatest things for me to experience. So thank all of you, and I encourage you to, those of you who are here to support the veterans, thank you, and please keep doing it, because it is appreciated, even if nobody says so. Now, one other thing that's really important is all of us. I did it as a Naval Academy midshipman. I did it on the day I was commissioned a Marine officer. I did it the day I became an FBI agent. Was we take an oath of office. And the oath says we will protect and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that oath does not have an expiration date on it. It does not. And in the military, I can tell you, I had to make some difficult choices at times, decisions about Marines I truly respected and truly liked, but needed to be disciplined for one reason or the other, making decisions in a combat situation that were difficult. But I believe our oaths of office for anybody, and this goes for first responders and others who swear an oath to protect and defend, we have an obligation to speak truth and to do our duty, no matter how uncomfortable that is. And as somebody looking no longer on active duty, looking into the active duty world, I'm concerned that while we are addressing significant threats overseas, we are not addressing significant threats right here in our country and right here in Texas. We have for those of you not aware, in my current life, I have an organization called Understanding the Threat, and we specifically deal with national security matters. And I've worked with a number of leaders at the federal level, state level, and local level around the country. And I will tell you, when I was recruited out of the FBI to work with the Department of Defense, specifically on the terrorism threat, the jihadi threat, one of the first things they had me do was to brief national leadership. And so I briefed former national security advisors. I briefed the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, who was from Texas at the time, the Intelligence Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, numerous members of Congress, former FBI and CIA directors, and many 3- and 4-star generals and admirals. And none of them were aware of the threat from the jihadi threat here in the United States, or how well organized it is internationally. I've also come to begin briefing and speaking about a very significant communist and Marxist threat here in the United States that is also incredibly well-funded and well-organized. And the Marxist movement here in the United States is working directly with the jihadi movement, the terrorists. And we see them working at the local, state, and federal level. And they are very clear. If you go to the Muslim Brotherhood's bylaws, which you can get on our website at Understanding the Threat, they say they seek to establish an Islamic State under Islamic law here in the United States. If you go to the websites of Communist Party USA, Freedom Road Socialist Organization, Antifa, they seek to overthrow the government, and they mean to do so. And they are taking actions daily to advance their movement. So as a veteran, I implore my fellow veterans to understand this threat and to get involved, because we need you. Because the oath of office does not have an expiration date. Now, as we look around here locally and in Texas, I have seen a number of community organizations, businesses, and leaders step up and really support our veterans. And I want to close on this note as it relates to our oaths of office. Enshrined in law, in the federal code, there are 4 organic documents that make up the foundation for all of our law. The Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, the Northwest Ordinance, and our Constitution. By law, those are our organic documents. The Declaration being the ideal for who we are as Americans, not just veterans. The Declaration says that the law of nature's God and the law of nature is the foundation for our law and government. And the founders utilized Blackstone's commentaries as the law at the time as they built this republic. And Blackstone's commentaries defines the law of nature as the will of God and the law of nature's God, excuse me, as Holy Scripture. And that becomes the foundation for how our laws and how our Constitution was built. And it specifically says no law should be made to contradict these, the law of nature and nature's God. Now, why is that important? Because for the first 150 years of the Republic, Blackstone's commentaries were used as the law taught in our law schools and in the United States. Not as all of our law, but it was taught at our law schools. I don't believe the problem in America is the jihadi threat or the Marxist threat or the threat from China and Russia or whatever else, because there are plenty of threats. I think the problem is us. The problem is we have forgotten who we are as Americans, that liberty is worth defending, that liberty is real, but it has to be fought for. There is no slack in the battle for liberty, ever. Sometimes the battle is kinetic, and sometimes it is spiritual, but it is always ongoing. Even the chairman of the Joint Chiefs said that we as human beings are physical and spiritual beings, and for our troops, for our Marines, our sailors, our airmen, we must take care of both. So there is an understanding, even if it's hazy, of what we are as a country. And I believe firmly it's time to take the fight to the enemy at all levels, speak truth, and defend liberty, and put freedom back on the offensive where it belongs. Because America stands for liberty, and that is not just some colloquial saying, and then we all applaud. It means in our daily lives, there are uncomfortable decisions that must be made to defend liberty in the local schools, with the chambers of commerce, inside our high schools and junior highs. But we're too embarrassed at a PTA meeting, some are, to stand up and speak truth. We're afraid. Folks, if you think, and I'm talking to all of you, and specifically you veterans who think my time has passed, your time has not passed. We need you to speak truth at all levels in this community, in Texas, and the United States. Because when the founders created this nation, it was the first time in the history of the world that victors of a revolution gave the power to the people. It's the first time in the history of the world we have the longest standing constitutional republic ever, and the most prosperous nation on earth, and it's because it's built on the foundation of the law of nature and nature's God. And we need to be unafraid. And the founders didn't say you must believe that, but whether you like it or not, it's the foundation for our law and our government, and no law should be created that contradicts those. And many laws exist today in Texas and in the United States that do. And we sit on our hands. You cannot critique politicians for their policies while you sit on your hands. We, the people, are the sovereign in this nation. It's time we take it back. God bless you, and God bless the United States, and God bless Texas. Thank you for having me.